First thing, I'd like to welcome everybody back. Hoping everybody's doing well. It's been about 4 months since we met last, so I hope everybody's been healthy. And I want to welcome our new member, Ray.
Thank you.
Hi, Ray.
I think he's been to a couple of these meetings before. And Lisa, hi Lisa. I hope you approve soon. And we'll get our other alternate too. I don't know what we're going to do about that one on Tom. Are we gonna? I don't know how that's going to work. So we'll talk later on it.
Yeah, I gotta chat with the rest of the board and we gotta figure it out. But
Okay. All right. So everybody get a chance to look at the minutes from the February meeting.
Yes.
Are there any additions, corrections, alterations? If not, I'll take a motion to approve.
I'm moved to approve the minutes.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Jim, second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Right?
Aye.
Oh, you were at the meeting, but okay. Okay. Under old business, there's two things. One of them is at the town center. I was up there today taking a look at it, and I've spoken with Conservation Advisory Board because I know about 5 years ago they got an award for their shoreline restoration there, but I don't know if they've touched it in 5 years. I mean, I realize that there's a no-mow zone there, but there's such thing as a no-mow zone as there's such thing as let's just ignore what's going on there zone. And right now the creek is about 2 feet wide and about 6 inches deep. And there's a couple empty bottles in there. And I actually took some pictures of it today. I don't know if I probably can't show you.
are they on your computer?
Yeah. Well, no, I sent them to you, Tom. Do you think you can, those two I sent to you, did you download them at all?
Did you text them to me or did you?
I sent them in the message to you.
Okay, hang on one sec. Yeah, I can probably pull those up.
Okay. Yeah, because actually mine are on my phone and I haven't had a chance to put them over on my computer yet. And they're just those two pictures. And what I'm looking at is some invasive species that shouldn't be there, some old, dried, dead plant material that really should be cleared out. And I have talked to CAB about it, but I haven't gotten a response from them. So, I'm sorry, Conservation Advisory Board. So, and I haven't gotten any response from them. I spoke with them last year a couple times to individual members. So I really would like to see something done with it. It's been 5 years. You know what I do have? Let's see if I can get that. Originally, it looked really nice when they first, do you remember, Ray, when they, back
Yes.
2010, 11?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, and they did that, and they told the Parks Department to not go in there and do anything. I think members of the CAB were periodically going in there, but you know, when membership changes, those people who were really involved with that kind of fall away a little bit. I don't think anything's been done, and maybe the Parks Department would have the ability to go in there with help from somebody who knows what needs to stay and what needs to go.
The latest update that I know of about this is I know that Dick Crawford did walk over and look at the property, and we did talk to him about talking to the CAB, and he said that he agreed it could use a little work, but you know, bring direction through the CAB board. I also know, I believe Diane Evans reached out to you, Tom. There was an email there at one point, but to be honest with you, I have reread it from like 4 months ago.
Yeah, I forwarded that email on to Judy, and they were gonna they gave kind of an initial response, but they were going to.
I think Diane said she was going to do something about it and that she would be the eyes to what was going on over there. But the rest of my recollection, I have no idea. I mean, that was 4 months, I know it's been difficult times right now.
The last time I spoke with Diane when the LWRP met with Project Olive, and I briefly spoke to her afterwards about it. And she said she would take it to conservation, and of course that was in February, and conservation just met last week. So I can see where maybe it it fell by the wayside in everything else. I can reconnect with them and ask them again, or Tom, if you want to as our liaison, just to talk to.
Yeah, I'll follow up again.
Okay, this is the looking.
Sorry, that's how they downloaded it, is these tiny little.
Yeah, tiny.
Evo.
Maybe go to magnify, Tom, up at the top.
Okay.
Well, my thought is that if it's overgrown and stagnant, then it's probably not really healthy, which is what they wanted it to be.
Yeah,
That's the first one.
Yeah, which we all want it to be.
Yeah.
So I like the idea of being cooperative with the Conservation Board and looking at it and determining if it's healthy or not and what could be done to remedy it.
Well, I mean, their initial response was essentially that this is how they wanted to leave it, and that, to some, this is beautiful because it's undisturbed. And I think the issue that Judy's bringing to light is that, well, they may think that this is beautiful. This wasn't the plan. This wasn't the way it was meant to be. And they won this nice award for the plan that they had, and then let it just deteriorate.
Well, that's what I mean. Maybe they're not going to say this is the way it should be. Maybe they'll go and they'll say, oh yeah, that's not, if it's not flowing, I would hope that they would say it needs some work.
Well, the email that Jen Pusatier was speaking of was them responding saying, this is how we want it. And we created that no-mow zone and left it like this on purpose, but we'll follow up again. And then, as Judy said, it kind of just fell off the radar once COVID hit and Project Olive. And so I'll kick the can there with Mike and with Cab again and see if we can get a better response.
Yeah, Tom, there's a difference between a no-mow zone and just overgrown whatever.
right.
And what happened is Parks was told not to go in there to do anything.
Right.
And when that happens, things just grow like crazy, and invasive things come in that are not supposed to be there. So if somebody could walk through and say, look, that's the stuff that's not supposed to be there, that's the stuff that needs to stay, maybe it could be cleaned up a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I'm asking. I'm certainly not going to, you got an award. I don't know if it would win the same award right now, because
Yeah, right.
and I would love to see, I know Sam Akinbami brought the award forward, and they submitted the whatever documents they had to do, or whatever the criteria was. I would love to know what their vision was. I mean, I have some drawings and things about when they were starting it, and it would be beautiful if it was done, kept up. So that's
what's in the drawings you had is very different than what's there today.
yeah. So that's all I'm looking for is to get, it's the center of our town. That's another thing that I'm looking at. So
We had one other concern that we were talking about with that too, is that the bridge, I don't know if it's shifted or whatnot, but it is no longer really ADA compliant, meaning it's very difficult to get anyone with like a walker or a wheelchair.
Right.
I think it's just basically, you need in one board maybe on each side where it's shifted. It's kind of like all lifted up, so you can't really roll a wheelchair over it. We had discussed that before, so
Yeah, we talked with.
it's a simple, like literally I could probably go get a piece of wood and screw it on there, but
Well, yeah, we talked. Jim Linenfelser
the town
takes care of most of the stuff there, and we had talked to him about it. But again, that was in February.
Right.
And COVID hit, so I'll follow up with Jim as well.
Right, I've asked for that for a couple years now. The town common side is about this much high off the ground. The parking lot, the town hall parking lot is fine. That's got a nice path, paver path up to it. But the other side is the one where you can't, it's not like that, like I said, it's not handicap accessible. You can't get up over it with a wheelchair or a scooter or anything. So, okay, so yeah, if you follow up with that,
The plan is, Tom, to discuss with the Conservation Board. Is that the plan?
right.
I'll follow up with the Conservation Advisory Board about the plan for the creek. With respect to the issue with the bridge, I'll follow up with Jim Linenfelser, who's basically the general caretaker of Town Hall, who can probably fix that in a jiffy, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, the other thing that we had in old business was about a year ago, so maybe a little longer. We had a visit from Carlos Piche, I can't pronounce his name, about wayfinding signs and information signs. Like the state has contracted with this company that there's one out in front of my house by the Big Six Bridge. And they were talking about the town getting similar signs for different areas in the town, and like Scenic Woods or the Nike base, where we could highlight either special events, historic occasions, facilities, park facilities, whatever. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. I think this is something that we should probably get together with economic development and historic preservation and conservation advisory, so that we could work on a design and work on, exactly where we would like to have these signs. I know that economic development has a grant for a marketing ecotourism grant to get do a marketing study to promote ecotourism or to get a branding for the town. And I think that these signs might fall in line with developing a brand for the town. So I just wanted you to be aware that we had spoken of it. I don't know if, Joe, were you in the meeting with Carlos and Jen? Remember, and he has some, you're muted, Joe.
Sorry, I did that because the dogs were barking. Yeah, that was with the Parks and Rec Master Plan Committee.
Right.
Came and met with that committee and went over all that.
Right. So I just wanted our board to be aware of that. I think it's, it's going to be a collaborative effort to make sure that we can get the best signage possible and where we want to put them, because they're not cheap signs from what I understand, but it's still something that we should, I want to put on the back burner, but I want to bring forward right now so we can get it off of old business for a while. And
Do we have an
Yeah,
idea of what destinations we want to promote? Oh, I'm sorry, Joe.
No, Dave, go ahead.
Do we have an idea what destinations we want to promote?
well,
Identify?
it's more, I think the Parks Master Plan Committee would be working on some park stuff. But I think the most important thing before we even start looking at that is that we would have to pick colors and logo and design. We can't use the colors the state is using. We'd have to pick our own colors, so we would have uniformity throughout the town in all the town signs. So it's a matter of picking something like that, and maybe, whatever kind of a logo or whatever we wanted to do. So that would also tie in with EDAB getting a marketing plan together. I don't think it's anything we can work on this year, but I think it's something that we can, I know that the Historic Preservation has spoken with Carlos about a couple signs. I don't know if what Jody was, if the Offerman sign was one of them, or if that was just a plaque. So I wasn't really quite sure what they were discussing in their meeting recently. So, plus, I mean, then, Veterans Park, they're just kind of wayfinding signs to say, here's the baseball diamonds, here's the walking path, here's, other things like that. So,
In just respect to Ray and Lisa, who are just joining in, with that grant, EDAB had approached us and asked us to collaboratively work with them on that. So they all kind of been in the loop on this, just to let you know that they approached us to ask us to work on it.
Right. Okay. All right. So that's all I had under old business. Under new business, well, I listened to the workshop this morning about the reopening guidelines for the parks and the recreation programs. And we have guidelines, and I'm not going to give you 45 minutes, Joe, to tell us what the guidelines are, but suffice to say that we're in what, phase 3 now?
Phase 3, yeah.
We've got a few things that we can start opening up with guidelines and limitations, and it's exciting that we can get some programs going safely, I hope. That's the important thing. And that I guess Little League is going to be starting up in July, so parks will be out there getting the fields ready. And I don't know what, I missed the part about Miracle League. I don't know what they're doing over there either, but they're not part of us, so I'm not really sure Joe would know if they were.
Yeah, communication I had with the president from Miracle League is he's waiting for the okay for the parks to open the facilities. But he was not sure how many of their participants would even do anything given the risks that, the group that they work with, the heightened risks that they have with some of their disabilities and all that. So they're ready to go, but just not sure what type of participation they'll get right now.
Okay, and where do we stand so much on the community use of our facilities? When, like, renting the community center, are we just holding off on stuff like that because we're talking about really cleaning afterwards? And
yeah, specific to the community center in that workshop meeting today, we're going to keep the community center closed until at least September.
okay,
Part of the reason behind that is we're going to be using it more for our programs than we would in a normal year. Partially for programs, partially for a staff area and staff meetings. And yeah, the complete disinfecting and the cleaning protocol that's supposed to take place in between user groups and stuff like that is going to be difficult. So until that's all in place and all that, we're going to keep that community center closed until September, and sometime before then we'll look at it, reevaluate it, and put that plan together.
I'll let you give the rest of your report and later on down here. So thank you, Joe. The other thing we had on new business is that in the last town workshop meeting, or the board meeting, Tom, they were going to refer Project Olive to all the advisory boards. So,
Correct.
So we can have a little discussion on Project Olive as it relates to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. If anybody has anything they'd like to say about it, or has anything you think how it would impact what we would advise the town on, then feel free to make a comment.
An idea that I've had since this first came up was assuming that we have some leverage, and I don't know the details. I'm sure Tom knows a lot more about it than I do, but do we have any leverage to say, listen, if we have to do some sort of variance for you to do this, could you build us a sports complex?
Well,
Why would you do that? Well, I don't want to interrupt, but why would you do that? They're going to become the biggest taxpayer instantaneously. If they come into town, you're going to have money in your budget that's going to be there to.
Well,
Again, that's not
we can
entirely
always keep
true.
that money in the budget, but they could maybe do this too.
But hang on, let's step back, because what Jim said is not true. When they come to town, once they're paying taxes, the town does not generate additional tax money from that. The levy stays the same, and whatever they pay reduces what the rest of us pay.
Right, I understand
Like
that.
there would be $1 million windfall for the town. With respect to
Well, that's true in one sense, but in the other sense, it's still, they're going to be generating greater, their assessment's going to increase the base. So, so you will have a little bit more flexibility there because you're going to have an increased base assessment because they're going to be the biggest taxpayer. And the other issue with this point too is that you couldn't do that just because they're the biggest. Another business comes in that's a little bit smaller. Are you going to ask them to kick into the kitty too? I mean, just because they're the biggest doesn't necessarily mean you could go in there and start asking them to make contributions.
Well, actually, we recently passed a law, not just because of this, that does give us a bit of leverage to ask for incentives when we're considering plan development districts such as this. It's a law that had been on the board in a different fashion for years and years. It was incentive zoning, and basically it was a pay-to-play, quite literally, process where if somebody was applying for a plan development district, which a portion of the plan development district in the code requires that a certain percentage of that be green space. So what the prior incentive zoning law provided was that basically they could offer monetary incentives to be used towards green space in exchange for the variances that they would be granted as part of the PDD. Since then, we've modified the law to basically include everything from our master plan. They can basically go through the master plan and look through that and use it as a guideline to offer incentives as part of their project that we can consider as part of the evaluation of whether or not we want to issue the plan development district rezoning, which includes the issuance of, in this case, a pretty massive height variance and area variances. But
we have some leverage.
We do have a bit of leverage. I am on a meeting right now. No.
So I just know that in running into people, they say, boy, I wish Grand Island had an ice rink for youth hockey. I wish Grand Island had an indoor gym, And so I don't know if this is an opportunity for them.
I think if people remember a number of years ago, there was a pipeline that was going to come across Grand Island, and Grand Island at that time decided that they were going to fight it. And instead of working with them and trying to mitigate all the concerns that citizens had, we continued to fight it. And there's a rumor, at least, that we could have had Veterans Park built out by the pipeline company for them to put the pipeline across Grand Island. So, David, what you're saying in this, I think, is something worthwhile. We've talked about a community building, especially for recreation programs that are being squeezed more and more out of the schools. I proposed one when I was on the board. It didn't go. That doesn't mean that we stop. We can continue to go. I think that's something very important. I see it in your meetings that's one of the prime things you're looking to do in the meeting minutes. It's one of the prime things you're looking to do going into 2020. I think it's a great idea to have the conversation. And maybe they say no, or maybe they say, yeah, you know what? We're impacting your island pretty good. We'll do something for you.
Yeah, you never know.
I think to that end, what this board ought to consider then, with especially insight from Joe and Jen, is what, to the extent we were looking for some kind of facility, what should it include? The other thing, and I don't think they gave us any details about it in their most recent submission, TC Buffalo did include a multimodal path through through the project site. So if this board wanted to offer any insight as to where that path should go, what it should consist of, that would be welcomed insight.
Tom, I'm sorry, I didn't follow you on that multimodal path. Could you?
Like a bike path that they're going to put through the site was part of their most recent submission.
David, I believe it's in the last packet on the update that was in the town, not the original super long one, but
Four, I think.
Right.
yeah, it's in there.
That's something we may be able to offer insight on, but it sounds like if that's going in on their property, that's
Yeah,
their
but we can
control.
definitely help steer the what types of things we'd want to see there. So
yeah.
because they're doing it as an
Their
incentive
property-
to us.
is going to get pretty close to the terminus of the West River Trailway, is it not? Up by Long Road?
Yeah.
Um,
Is that a path that would be open to the public, or are they putting that in specifically for their employees to use?
No, it would be open to the public, is my understanding.
Okay, all right. Yeah, if that's the case.
There's a
then
way to connect it to the West River Trail was my thought.
that would be kind of tough. I mean,
'Cause
they,
you have to cross a few roads.
oh,
Yeah,
wait,
well,
The Master Parks Master Plan Committee, I mean, isn't that something that's being discussed on how to connect the trails that we're working on sitting down and figuring out where the missing links are? I mean, that would be a definite place that we should look, and this committee should keep an eye on and recommend maybe, through there too. Yeah, Judy, I don't know.
well, there is one place it could connect. The people on Sunset are gonna kill me for this one.
Yeah,
It does, it does connect, their property does connect to the end of Sunset.
Mm.
And then there's
well,
crossing at the end of Sunset to the West River Parkway. Now,
is that with or without the west parcel there, Judy?
I'm
Judy,
sorry.
if they don't purchase the west parcel as they claim they're trying to do, it wouldn't connect, but.
Okay, I don't have the map in front of me. I mean, I know part of it does. I mean, if they come in off of Alt Boulevard because they own, where the old Alt Boulevard is, then they'd have to cut across their driveway and everything, which they
Yeah.
probably don't want to do.
But Jen's right, and I know Pete, who's on the master plan, the Parks Master Plan Committee, he's big on the trail thing. I went out and spent a day with him trying to get the connector from the Nike base over to the West River Trail done. It looks like we were nearing that. That was just before COVID too. We went out there on a winter day and kind of, there's just the head, and then got to figure out how they're going to get it between the houses and over the ditch and to the path. But that's just about complete. So.
And if it's not feasible to connect the path on their property, maybe they could contribute to the connectivity of other, paths that we would like to see. Maybe they could contribute financially to that.
I don't know what you guys think.
Right
but-
across on, it comes out on Long Road, right?
Yep.
If I remember correctly, right across from there is the, no, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of West River Road.
Yeah,
Where
it
you
comes
come
out.
through Buckhorn. The bike path is up there. I'm thinking of the wrong
Yeah,
area.
and it's
There's no
still a bit of
there's
a
no
ways.
bike path along there.
No, it's not terribly far from the West River Trail where it comes out, but depending on the age of the kid, you wouldn't want to ride a bike through there. So.
Right, yeah.
No.
Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like everything is pretty much up for, discussion at this point. And I think what we're trying to hone down on with this committee is that we think, depending on, the PPD and the incentive programs and zoning and blah, blah, blah.
I'm
Anyway,
listening.
I guess what our discussion is, or maybe we just need to formally say to the town of Grand Island is that, or the town board, is that we would like to be open in those discussions if it comes down to a point where that's a possibility, or if they would like us to put something together as, especially with Joe and the Parks Department as to, what we, on a small, or on a very large, what am I trying to say? On a very broad scale as to, what we would see for a community center and senior services, or what is needed, in that level. That way, maybe, we're part of that conversation, and that when it comes through, I know we have a lot of advisors that are working, law, advisors and whatnot, but maybe, it would be good for Judy or for us to just, present something to say, hey, we'd like to be on that radar, and, please include us if it comes about, and if they would like us to put something together on behalf of our board, if, those incentives or whatnot, if that discussion comes along. And I hate to miss an opportunity if it does come to the door. And not only, obviously for Grand Island, but for our board too,
I
Yeah,
mean, I would really prefer it if this board would put something together, because Ray, you know, like you said, he had a proposal. Nate tried, and I think the only issue with what Nate and that board, the way they approached it was they gave everybody carte blanche and said, guys, what do you want? And everybody shot for the moon, and rightfully so. But when they had those discussions, that was money that was coming out of the taxpayers' pocket. So realistically, that was never going to be putting up a $15 million community center with a pool and a splash pad and every bell and whistle we can find was not really ever going to be feasible. So I think what we should really do, and whether it's part of this project or not, it's something that I would promote because I think it is something that we need on the island, is a toned down version of that, probably something similar to, and I don't remember, I think I saw the proposal that Ray had, but I don't remember, but something that kind of addresses the most pressing needs. For example, as Ray had mentioned, and we've talked about at length in other meetings, the inability for Joe to run the programming that he wants to run because he's continuously getting shut out either completely or at the very last minute by the school. So, you know, Joe and Jen are both doing a great job. They're both looking to expand their programming. And what I would be most curious to is what between their needs and between the needs of the general public, what do we need? If we're going to do something, what is the minimum we can do and make it make sense? We can always add on after the fact, but we can't, you know, if we're going to fund it, we can't shoot for the stars from the beginning. So I would love it if this board could put some thought into what it is we need if we were just going to start from the bottom, and what can we do to get Joe and Jen what they need to effectively run their programming, as well as meeting the most pressing needs and to some extent desires of the community.
You know,
Tom,
what I'd
another
like to
side
do,
that we have,
I would like to have the opportunity to meet with Joe and Jen and talk to them about what I had developed, which was not an expensive, crazy plan. It was a less expensive, a $5 to $7 million building. And I think it incorporated a lot of things they need, but I'm not 100% sure that's the case. So if I could just meet with them for a little bit and have a conversation with them about what I have and what they think about what I have, is if it's bad, well, we throw it out. If it's good, we work from there and maybe change it.
Or given the timing and the possibility of this being something that could be presented to Project Olive, Judy and the rest of the board, if you guys want, you're more than able to schedule a special meeting. Just make sure I have it and you can post it, and you can have basically your own workshop dedicated to going over that plan and kind of brainstorming this idea. But
yeah, Tom, another side we have to look at that would probably be more you, me, and probably the board and Pam, is let's just say, you know, Project Olive came in and they said, you have X amount to build a community center, design it within these, you know, so say they said you've got 10 million, design it and build it. We have to look at the sustainability of that building financially. How are we going to, you know, continue to support that building? You know, whether putting together a long range plan for that, even if it's you know, like Friends of Recreation and Parks or something like that, where fundraising can be done to help offset some of the cost or program costs. That way, you know, budget money gets reallocated and stuff like that, just so that we're going into it with that plan of, okay, we're getting this for free and we've got this plan to, you know, help keep taxes down and stuff like that. I think right now you have a younger, you know, base on the island, or a more willing base. If their taxes go up by, say, $100 a year, I think you have more people right now willing to say, holy cow, for $100 a year, plus whatever fees are going to be associated with the membership, we're going to get this nice community center. I think we have a good opportunity with that right now. We just have to have all those pieces of the plan in place and taken care of.
exactly, and I think so. I think you're dead on, and I think that's why I would really like it if this board could put something together, because it really is, you know, it's a need, and no matter how it comes about, it makes sense to kind of start with, here's the basics. Here's what we absolutely need because we have services we want to offer. And honestly, I mean, if you do it that way, the continuing maintenance costs can probably to some extent offset by what you do for programming. I mean, there would be some staff requirements, but in addition, you know, if something were built, we could reach out to local businesses and stuff like that. You look at things like the Paddock Golf Dome. That's run by the town of Tonawanda, but they've got sponsors that are on board, and we can
Right.
certainly look into the viability of that stuff. But I think first things first is we need to come up with a more realistic vision for what this would entail, regardless of how it comes to be.
There may be some revenues from naming rights, you know, that would be annual revenues.
Well, let me say one thing before we get too far. This is okay as far as Amazon is concerned. Remember, Joe, we have a Parks and Recreation Master Plan Committee that is looking at the whole thing, all the parks and all the recreation on Grand Island. Now, this is just a small piece of it by saying, what kind of incentive can we get from Amazon to contribute to that master plan and what vision we have for the parks and recreation facilities on Grand Island? So, I mean, I don't know if I don't think we'd be stepping on any toes with that committee by saying, you know, we just want to work something to see where will Amazon go with this? You know, will it be conducive to that? Are they conducive to offering us some help in building it? And you're absolutely right, Joe. I mean, we've got to be able to sustain this thing once they build it. I mean, you know, it's like you win the lottery, you buy $1 million house, and then you get taxes on it, you know?
Yeah.
Well, Tom, has anyone, with the advisors you have with the town, has any of them basically giving you some information about other sites that Amazon's built? So they're building all across the country. So right now, there's been, you know, probably other towns that have come in front of them. Is there any feedback on how they've been perceptive to that? Because we're just asking for 2 variants, a height variance, and I guess a lighting variance, so.
And a pretty massive variance with respect to the number of parking spots. I think it would be upwards of 5,000 parking spots that would have been required without a variance, which is enough.
Well, that's because the size of the building, I guess, but they're not going to be using it to the intensity that, I understand that because you have 1 million square feet. So like for every certain 1,000 square feet, you need a parking space, but they're not going to be using it to the intensity you normally would be. So I understand that. But have we any get feedback from other communities that have tried to get things from them?
That's a good idea. In other words, just call some other communities up and say, did you have any negotiations like this? How'd it go? Is that what you're saying?
I'm sorry. Clay, New York is having one built right now, same size, just about the same size as the one we're having. I haven't read, I see what kind of tax incentives they're getting, but I haven't read that they have gotten anything for the community besides the increase in taxes. They're building on an old golf course, so they had to have that rezoned, and they had.
Yeah, they had some environmental issues there too because of pesticides over the years. So
Yeah.
it's essentially almost a brownfield. Yeah.
Right, and then there's one down in Montgomery. There's one in Skodak. They're both only 1 million square feet. I know that sounds funny, but you know, where ours is like 3.5 or 4 million. But and I haven't read where there's been any incentive zoning for them. But I mean, I can't be 100% sure.
Isn't that?
York. Have you seen anything, Jen?
No, I haven't, but it may be too because it's a PPD, and Ray and Tom can correct me on that. I mean, that's what the major issue is here with it, right? It's the fact that it's a PPD and they need those variances.
Well, yeah, I mean, the fact that we can ask or that they have to offer it is a result of a PPD. I mean, they could have chosen to process this and gone through the ZBA and obtained the variances in the typical fashion if they so chose. But this was, I think they perceived it as perhaps a faster and easier way to do it. And it keeps the decision with the town board, which is probably where it belongs on a project of this magnitude, but that's just my 2 cents. But yeah, that's really, and one thing to consider when it comes to what other places have got is there are a lot of other places out there that just wanted the tax dollars, that just wanted the jobs, that were in a much, much different position when it came to considering a project like this than Grand Island is. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel. I can take it or leave it. If this project makes sense for the island and we're going to benefit from it, great. If we're not, bye. I have no problems telling them to hit the road. I mean, and I think that gives us, and I know many of the other board members feel the same way, and it puts us in a good position because they've invested plenty of money already into trying to vet this site, into doing their submission and paying their experts, and you know, they got to show us that it's the right thing for us to do.
Well, how much do we have to say about it though, Tom?
I mean, we don't, it's
Other than the variance being approved.
there's nothing that requires us to approve a variance.
Okay.
Right, they came in and asked for the variance. I mean, they're,
Right.
like you said, if they didn't want that, they could have put that site there without those variances. They could have got a smaller height, complied with the parking, and not done the lighting. That site will be developed. I mean, there's sewer there now. I know the developer. He may not develop it with a site this big, but he's slowly going to just develop it over the years. He's going to put a road in there. Maybe 20 years or when we're gone, eventually the site will be developed with industrial property. So it's just a matter of time, but it's just not going to happen instantaneously.
Yeah, my sense is that if there isn't much we could do to stop it, we might as well get the maximum benefit we can out of it.
Well, and that's kind of the way I'm approaching it, because the attorney in me says no matter what happens here, it's going to result in a lawsuit. The town board says no, they probably sue us. If we say yes, there's probably a group of citizens that'll sue somebody to get an injunction. But I find it funny because there's a lot of people out there that say, well, why don't they just go put it in the Summit Park Mall? The biggest concern most people have is traffic. Well, guess what? If it goes in the Summit Park Mall, we're probably all still going to deal with the traffic, but not have any of the benefits that go along with the increased tax base and stuff like that. So, it's definitely.
Don't you think it's not just Amazon? Amazon's going through a developer, and they probably have a plan B because they want to get paid. They want to develop the site. So I guess we're site A. I'm sure they're lining up other sites, but this is probably the preferable site, right? I mean,
I can't speak to that, but like I said, I know they've spent a boatload of money trying to.
Right.
For anybody who says why this site, why on an island, I don't know. I truly can't understand, but they must see something because they've already spent a lot of money and would spend a heck of a lot more money to build this thing. They seem to want it here, so.
The gem on the Niagara.
That's so.
Okay, so
I think another good idea to piggyback off of the definite need of a community center, which we're already lagging years and years and years behind on, is the need for an adult day center. Because the need is growing greater and greater by the day that we cannot keep up. Yeah. So if we need a community center, I'm already lagging behind on that. So that should be something that the town should certainly ask for. Because if we need it now in 2020, I'm already behind on the times as it is now. I'm not even ready for this year, let alone 5 years from now, let alone 10 years from now. So we should definitely certainly ask them for something like that, which would mean a separate building or a building attached to a community center or an additional building onto Golden Age or a new Golden Age center with this separate entrance that people going to an adult day with additional staff being able to be a part of such a facility to help those with dementias and Alzheimer's, because that's going to be one of the leading diseases that is going to take over our nation in the next 2 years and in the years to come.
Well,
Yeah,
Jen,
Jen, I got a,
sorry, Ray, go ahead, Michael.
thank you.
One of us got questions.
Jen, I got a question for you. I know of only one that's been kind of prominent, and that's out in Hamburg. When you run an adult daycare center like that, does the individual have to pay to, like you take your kid to daycare?
Right. That's a great question.
Yeah, so 2 or 3 years ago, we had one of our NFRPS meetings out there, and we got the tour of the facility. At that time, it was $50 a day. And I think that was the resident pricing.
Mhm.
So they had to pay $50 a day. I can't remember if they accepted any insurance or not, but, but they said that they are pretty much full at capacity because that's much cheaper than anywhere else around.
Were they self-sustaining or were they also sustained by tax monies?
Both.
Both. Okay.
Both. Yeah, I'm not sure that the complete finances with it, but it was the $50 a day covered a good chunk of, what it was. And they also got a great deal on their building too.
Yeah, right.
That was an old school. It was only about 7 or 8 years old. I think everyone BOCES, they moved out and
Right.
75% of it was paid for by the state, 25 by BOCES. The town took that. They got a great deal.
Right, right.
So, but they put a good deal of money into it to switch it over too. So,
Well, again, like Jen said, it's something that's absolutely needed. We know the aging population and things like that. So if we can sneak that in there and do that too, I think it's a great idea.
Lisa,
Could I just ask Jen to maybe clarify the difference, an adult daycare center
Sure.
versus the Golden Age Center? Is
Sure.
one for those with special needs? So could
Sure.
you elaborate on that?
Sure. So an adult day program would be, it could be something that's say an 8 to 4 and 8 to 5, that would specialize in needs for say someone with Alzheimer's and dementia's, more specialized care, which would be a whole continuum of care, more one-on-one care. For example, I run a social group respite program one time a month, absolutely free of charge, that I do in conjunction with the Alzheimer's Association. I've been trained to do and to run such a program. I've trained my volunteers to run such a program, and I run that program as one of 23 free programs like that in our area. My program is completely maxed out. I have a wait list of people wanting to be a part of my program because it's free, because of the fact that it saves the families the cost of $50 to $75 for the day to not take their loved one to an adult day program. And in that 3-4 hours time that I have that individual in my social group respite program, we do say 7 to 8 different activities in that 3-4 hours of time to keep them engaged and having a great time. And it's one-on-one care, a volunteer paired up with a participant. And it's a lot of fun. We do a sing-along, bingo, exercise, individualized activities, reminiscing, another chair exercise, which includes chair exercise and yoga. And we keep mixing it up to keep them active, engaged, talking, keep those relationships in conversation. And these are individuals that need more of that specialized one-on-one care, apart from someone that comes to the senior center who could be engaged on their own, who doesn't need that attention all the time.
Let me ask you this then, is if someone has special needs for the daycare, I would assume they have a medical diagnosis, and so wouldn't that be covered through healthcare insurance?
Right.
Wouldn't
And
this be a
Lisa-
reimbursable service?
I was just going to say, I'm a discharge, I work in the discharge planning, and there are programs like Medicaid and Medicare will supplement, and people that can't afford the co-pays, they'll supplement that to help people with such programs. So there is insurance and regular insurance too that will help out with that.
But anyway,
Dave,
it sounds like it's a good
example,
idea, again, to propose to, in these negotiations.
Yeah.
Sorry, Joe.
No, I was just going to say, to give you an example, like you asked about the difference between the two, like the buildings themselves, like the senior center and the Golden Age Center is basically an open building, foot traffic free flowing in and out. They have the different rooms set up, whatever they are, the craft room, pool room, stuff like that. The Adult Day Center in Hamburg, because it does have part of it that's a regular senior center, and part of it is that adult day where it specializes in dementia and Alzheimer's. So when you go into that part of the building, it's automatically locked doors that you can only get into with your key fob or however they do it. Rooms in there, they have a specific PT/OT room. They have a quiet room with leather loungers in there, which is designated specifically for that. So those are some of the bigger differences between an adult day versus a
Yeah.
general senior center.
Probably has to meet certain accreditation standards and things like
Yeah,
that.
so there's more oversight from the State Department of Health and all those, so.
Okay.
Okay, so what we're looking at is, Tom, we would like an incentive for all of that?
Yeah. Tom will go one variance at a time.
But I think you get the idea of the fact is that we obviously need some recreation facilities, like Ray's saying. We've all been saying, and Joe's been telling us that the school is cutting back big time on sharing, and they're spending $11 million this year to put in a field that we can't use, basically, or maybe sporadically when they decide to let us use it. So, that's $11 million. And I know that the state's paying for part of it, but we know how that, it's still tax money. But so I think we have to look at trying to get some kind of incentive out of them if we can. If we can, anything will help. We can put something together that says, we would tell us what you think. Tell us what you would like, what you think we can get for us. Tell us what kind of incentive you're willing to go. They have to be negotiating something. I mean, they want to build here. Like you said, they might have a plan B. I think their plan B is to go to court, but that's my personal opinion,
Joe and Jen, in the last town's needs assessment review, did it do anything with the programming, or was it specifically just the buildings? Like what,
That was just building and personnel.
building? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It didn't go into the desire to increase programming. Because like I said, Joe and
He had the
Jen,
need of our buildings.
It basically said that we needed a building to run appropriate programming, but
Yeah.
it didn't go into what type or how much or anything.
But there's
like that.
something that's said there official, or there was an official review done that, basically the buildings.
Basically said that we needed.
We're working on, are crumbling around you.
But you mean the CPL study that did the study on the Nike base?
Yeah.
Correct.
We also had the CGR
so
personnel study too. Is that
that's the one that was the
CGR study? The piece of okay.
the
Because
needs assessment that covered the entire town, not just the Nike.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
we had the building study that CPL did for the Nike base alone, but that was just the buildings.
We have our indoor air quality study that's going to be starting up in a few weeks, so that's a plus.
Oh,
Is the board thinking along these lines? I know there's a lot of issues with this project to divert their thought, but is this part of their thinking? How can we make this more of a win-win? And if we have some leverage, what can we do?
Oh, I think we're all thinking that. I mean, I don't think that there's one board member who really, they're all in the same, I think, mindset that I sent you earlier, that if they can make this so that it's something that's beneficial to the town,
Yeah.
we like it. And if it's not going to be beneficial to the town, then we have no problem saying, yeah.
Well, yeah. Okay, good.
So
okay. So I don't know. I guess we're leaving it in your hands, Tom, to see if we know what we want. We would like you to get some kind of incentive from them.
Well, should
Well,
Joe,
but I think what
Tom's idea, should we have a short list of things for Tom to take?
and that's what I would like is, we know we want something, but what does that something contain? What does it contain with respect to Joe and Joe running his programming? What does it contain with respect to Jen and Jen running her program? And then what, if anything, does it contain to meet the needs of the public? I mean, you hear people complaining, and Ray has been in this for years. Joe and Jen and myself, we're just getting there because we've got young kids, but everybody takes their kids off island to do this league and that league. And yeah, Jen, you too, but I mean, as far as like practicing, I remember in high school when I
I
played
would
high
be
school.
more than happy to pay $100 on my tax bill if I had to sacrifice things to not drive off the island constantly.
Right, and that's just fine. But even for the school league, and now this is changing, but you can't use it anymore. when I was in high school, they would cart us over to Kegabine in the spring, and we'd get hardballs hit at us on a gym floor. Let me tell you how much fun that was.
Yeah.
But I mean, we really
Excellent lighting over there too.
But I mean, and Ray, and I think, you know, Ray's been around the block, so especially with respect to this issue, I think he's got a good pulse on what the discussions have been over the past years, because he's been on the ground floor of this. I still, and I think I've said this to this board many times, I remember when I was young, when we first moved to the island, seeing the picture of the proposed community center / rec center for Vets Park on the cover of the phone book, and being heartbroken when it didn't come through. So Ray was around for all that. I mean, this has been an issue for a couple of decades, at least on the island, and we've gone nowhere.
That's what I was going to say.
You know, it's pretty, I'm sorry, Jen, go ahead.
As three of us that have run for office, some more successful than others, but when we've been campaigning or talking to your constituents when both of you are elected, that is one of the #1 things that you get heard from the public. We need some sort of rec center. I mean, the need is, I think, not even so much a want. And then, you know, our town looks at it that there's smaller towns that are able to support something, and we don't have anything, you know, so I understand the concerns and I understand the needs, so, you know.
It's kind of circular, because some of those smaller towns have more substantial tax bases. So, I mean, I kind of go back to my same thing. It's just, you know, from my business, I'm just looking at, there's going to be so much tax revenue coming in from this taxpayer. I mean, I would hate to just I would try to get something from them, but I wouldn't push them to the extent where they leave, because you're going to get tax revenue. And each of us is going to get, like you said, that $100 less that we're going to have to pay because of them coming to town, maybe even less. I haven't done the numbers yet, but I don't know. Have you done the numbers, Tom? Have you looked at what projected tax revenue we're going to receive from them if they do come in?
Well, I mean, yes and no, because there's kind of a double-edged sword, because there's the projected tax revenue based on what the building would be worth, but we won't see that projected tax revenue for probably 15 years, because I'm sure they're going to negotiate a pilot. They're likely going to get said pilot, and that's going to reduce what portion of that taxes we'll get for the foreseeable future. So
Right.
But I mean, James, and my issue is, and again, is, you know, I would take whatever it is that's brought up here to the board and try and run with it, regardless of whether or not it comes as a part of this project, because I think there is a need, and I think that if we can really, and like you said, even if we don't get it as an incentive, if everybody gets a little bit of a tax reduction because this project comes, then perhaps it's a good time to strike while the iron's hot and make use of, hey, we're going to keep the taxes the same, because what we would have saved in this, we're going to use to do something we should have done a long time ago. So,
Right.
So politicians have always had a problem going forward with this. I can't tell you how many years it's been that I've had the same kinds of discussions that you guys are talking about, where you talk to people, and if you say to them, look, for $100 on your taxes, you're going to get this. It's not going to be an increase in insurance payments. It's not going to be an increase in retirement payment. It's not going to be this. It's not going to be that. You're going to have this facility. And to the person, it is almost the answer of, yeah, that's okay. I don't mind that. Well, the problem with that is you have to have people in office, sorry, Tom, that are willing to go out on a limb and say, you know what, our community needs this. I'm voting for it. And the people who don't like their taxes raised by a cent or want them reduced are going to vote against you. And okay, that's the way it goes. But I think this is the right thing for our community, and we just need to do it. So if we have the right people on the town board right now, that will also help, because Amazon may say, look, we're not going to put up a $15 million facility for you, but we'll give you $5 million towards it or something like that. And then the town's got to kick in the rest. So the people have to say, okay, we're willing to do it.
Do we have any research on other communities that have successfully gotten a community center or something? And what amount of money they're willing to commit?
That's what Jim asked before, and I've been looking, and I haven't found anything exactly like that where they've gotten in incentives in the community. Now there may be things that they've done that that enhance the infrastructure of the town, because it would be to their benefit too. But I don't know, like, you know, improving roads, doing this because it was part of how to get their project approved. But as far as doing something that solely benefited, quote unquote, solely benefited the community, like a community center, I haven't found anything like that.
In fact, they might have non-disclosure agreements because they don't want the word getting out
Right, Joe.
what they're doing
Well-
for, you know, other communities.
I
That
Googled
circles
it,
back
and
to
I've
two
seen-
things.
I've Googled it and seen that they've like supposedly built pools for communities and different things, but when you really look at the meat and potatoes, you can't find the details.
Well, and that might be part of what Joe said as far as
Yeah.
maybe a non-disclosure agreement or something like that. But when you look at, again, one, there are communities out there that they just need this. They need a project that size. They need the jobs. You look at a lot of the centers. I mean, Project Olive, I've looked at Amazon because I've seen people drawing parallels. As Judy said, we know it's public record that Amazon is the one behind the basically identical structure that's being built in Clay outside of Syracuse. It is the same size. It is the same building.
Same
But, you know, Amazon, and I've looked, sometimes they bought, I forgot where it was, they bought an old warehouse that it was like the one city's biggest employer. And when they closed, that city needed something like that because they needed jobs for their people. So they said, okay, come on, we'll roll out the red carpet for you. And that's just not the approach that we're taking, obviously, because I don't think that's the approach we should be taking here. It is going to have an impact on the island. And if it's going to go here, it needs to be, that impact has to be offset. The other thing is the incentive zoning provisions that I talked about. Not everybody has those. In fact, very few people have those. And without that, you can't just ask. That's a no-no to say, well, we'll do it if, you know, with nod wink and you build this. It's, you know, you really can't do that without this. And that's why we have that law, and it's more than just the law saying you can do it, because the only way that it's a big puzzle, but ultimately between the law and what we have, the fact that we just revised our master plan, because that's ultimately what steers it. It's not just you ask for whatever you want. The contents of that master plan identifies the needs and the plans for the community and basically gives them a checklist, and that's where the incentives have to come from. So,
Okay, so what we want to say then is, and I'm not really sure what we want to say now that I think about it, that we want to put something forward that says, this is what we would like to have. This is what we feel that the community needs. We feel we need an indoor recreation facility to accommodate our recreation programs, and which would require, you know, a couple of indoor gym floors, or you know, a multi-purpose, you know, field house, or whatever you call one of those home things, or an indoor turf field or something like that. But we also need to have some smaller rooms, a teen center, you know, things like that.
you nailed it, Judy. That's exactly the type of guidance I
Exactly what
think.
we need. A multi, you know, functional kind of facility
Right.
with meeting rooms, but also large recreation floors.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, we can't design them, obviously, but I would, you know, I would love Joe and Jen to put a few things on a piece of paper for our next meeting, if that works in the time.
About a recreation center. So I think.
Yeah, we've given that a few times. I think with the Parks and Rec Master Plan Committee,
Uh-huh.
the town boards over the years, as we've looked at community centers and stuff like that, that'll be easy to do.
Yeah, so because it's not so much the Parks Department. I mean, because they're more the land and taking care of the land and that kind of structure. But we're looking at a building that we need to house the programs that we have to have, that we already have, and that we don't have the facilities for. I mean, Joe, you know, you don't like canceling your sports craze when it rains. I mean, that's just not part of that
And
are,
we're so outdoor and weather dependent, you know, we need alternatives. We need an
love
indoor.
to be able to say, yeah, my boys played hockey, and then, I schlepped them all over Southern Ontario, and they played travel hockey, so you can imagine. And we were all over the place, but we had I'm not in favor of a rink for the island. That's a big ticket item. What I'm looking for is a building for Joe's recreation programs. And Jen, if you feel that the seniors need something new, I know that they were kind of pushing off on it when we were talking about it before, but there's new seniors every day, and some of them probably would like a facility that's a little closer to the center of the island, maybe, or a little bit more modern, or
Yeah.
so it's
Their mindset is more fresh.
something that we can move stuff indoors, or have indoor leagues in the winter, so we can use it 4 seasons, and you can play soccer 4 seasons,
That's
and
right.
you can practice inside.
But we're not even on the expansion part. We can't sustain what we have now. We have
I
programs
agree.
that have run through Joe and whatnot that have been put on the calendar and people have paid for, and they get pushed out of gyms 2 days a day before.
Right.
We can't sustain what we have now.
Right.
It's really a problem.
Yeah, it would be nice to be able to know where your volleyball game was going to be every single week, or where your basketball game was going to be, because you were always going to the same place. So I think that's what we need,
On
Joe.
level, it's a great thing. Our town is active. I mean, that's, an involvement, but yeah, we're definitely short on space.
So I think I'll entertain a motion that we let Joe put together some kind of a plan, Joe and Jen, to give to you. I email it to all of us, Joe, and when, is there a time frame here, Tom?
Not really.
Not really?
I mean, COVID just destroyed everything. I mean,
Oh,
they
yeah.
hit the ground running, and they scheduled that meeting with all of the chair people before. But I mean, it was just last Monday that the town referred this officially to all of the boards and committees in the town, and they essentially all meet monthly. So
Yeah. Okay. Whoops. I might lose my internet here. So,
Yeah, how much time do we have on this Zoom meeting?
like,
as much time as we want. The town has a paid subscription, so.
Okay, all right.
okay.
Well, I got to go to bed before midnight, though.
Midnight. I got to be in bed before 10.
Well, maybe a great proposal, Judy, would be that maybe Joe and Jen put like a basic guideline. I mean, you guys have done this quite a few times, and then maybe email it to all of us, and then we can add upon it. I'm sure Ray would really like to get some input and whatnot in it.
I like that idea.
With this, and all the rest of us, and James and Lisa and everybody, but maybe you guys could start us out with a direction, and then the rest of us could add on to that, or our ideas. And Jen, if that's okay.
Sure.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, we've had, I think, at different points, we've had a tiered wish list of, immediate needs now, what we'd like to have, and then, if we had the Taj Mahal, here's what we would, put in it. So
yeah,
it'll
What do you think,
include
Judy?
that.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. That's, and that's the direction I was going, Jen.
Well, I didn't want to lose your internet, so I was trying to jump in there quick.
It just all of a sudden it started flickering.
Okay.
So so why don't we do that? And well, Tom says there's no hurry, but we normally don't meet in July. But I think since we'd probably still be Zoom meeting then, I don't know. Or we can always Zoom meet. It doesn't really matter. But
I'll address that point quickly. Moving forward, I'm hopeful that we should hopefully be in phase 4 a week from tomorrow, much less by the next time we're scheduled to meet. I'll keep everybody advised. I think the plan, it's trending towards meeting in person with a Zoom component for anybody who doesn't want to meet in person and doesn't feel comfortable yet, as well as public. For this board, we may have to then move to the conference room or the courtroom, just because they have the technology that gives us the ability to do that. But I will keep the group posted on that, or I'll keep Judy posted on that as we get more guidance. But that's the hope, is that we, at least if we so choose, will have the ability to meet in person next time.
All right, okay. Okay, we'll get to the next meeting then. So, okay, let's do that and get that taken care of. And we can move on. Do we need a motion to do that? We don't really need a motion, do we? Nah, just do it.
I don't think until we get it. Once we
We'll
get
make
it
a
together.
motion.
Joe's volunteering, isn't he?
I think he's got the list already, so I think it's not really too much of a stretch. Okay, so we can go. Tom, do you have anything to report? That we already gone by now?
I think we've probably covered most of it. Just want to say thanks to Joe and Jen, who have done a ton of work and have been really on top of everything throughout the COVID crisis. And we appreciate that. You've made the town board's lives a lot easier. I know Joe, Judy, you watched the meeting, as Joe put it, the town has a very aggressive approach to the programming, but I like to think of it as, with Joe's guidance and the town board being rational, we were prepared. We didn't jump the gun and cancel everything. We didn't make rash decisions. Joe was providing us with updates from the state, from the Niagara Frontier Recreation and Parks, the FRPS or whatever it is.
Niagara Frontier in New York State.
He fed us all of the information all along so that we knew whether or not we should be making a decision. And because of that, it'll be interesting. And Joe is, even now that we approved him on Monday to start offering the programming, which means he has a couple of weeks to get up to speed and get things running. And it's going to be a heavy lift. But the nice part is, for those residents that choose to take advantage of it, it's there for them. It's not the town didn't make the decision for them. And if they choose not to register, we'll deal with that when we get there. But at least we have some stuff to offer to our residents. And that's in large part because of the hard work that Joe did throughout the last 3 months. And Jen, the Golden Age Center is, I don't know when we're going to get it open again. And I know that there's a bunch of seniors that use it that are counting down the days till we can do so. But especially for that demographic, unfortunately, we have to be uber cautious as we make those considerations. But I just wanted to say thank you to you guys, the Parks Department. We got them. I know Natalie's not here, but was it last 2 weeks ago, Ray? I think we got them up and running. And they were able to basically get all the grass cut down to height, and they're in very good shape to be able to get going when, I think, July 6th was the date that was set by the governor with respect to youth programming, so long as we were in phase 3, which we are. And because of the hard work of both our rec department and our parks department, we're going to be able to offer programming commencing in July 6th. So I think that's awesome. I think the residents will appreciate it. And I just wanted to say I appreciate their hard work. So.
Thank you.
Great job, guys.
Joe?
I'll keep it short. Won't be the 45 minutes that we went through this morning, especially because those mandates are ever changing. We had our meeting last Monday. As Tom said, decided we're going to open program registration with the tentative start date of July 6th for all the programs that we can. At that point, we had certain adult programs and youth programs that fell under phase 3 that we were allowed to, if they started that day, we'd be allowed to do. That Thursday, June 18th, new guidance came out. It was interim guidance. So it's kind of like, okay, yeah, we're in phase 3, but we're looking ahead to phase 4. That under that guidance, we're going to be allowed to run some more programs. So just a quick recap, the programs we know that we by the guidelines, we're going to be able to start on July 6th. We're looking at our adult pickleball program. With that, I talked to Amy today. I think we're going to push that back to July 13th because she is going to be starting all the adult leagues on that day. It's just going to be, it's not going to be a feasible lift to do. So our adult programs with the softball, soccer, and the pickleball are all going to be able to start July 6th with the softball leagues, Sunday the 12th with the soccer, and then Monday the 13th with the pickleball. Our youth programs, we are able to run our Sports Craze program, which is our biggest one, but it's going to be, the hours are going to be cut back a little bit. The numbers, we're only going to be allowed 40 kids total, as to oppose the 200 registrations. A large part of that, back to the community center, is because of the available covered space that we have. So we're limited there. And again, with these mandates, you know, this may change. See, Finger Lake Region, if they're on track, should be in phase 4 by this Friday. So those guidelines may be out. This may change before we even start. But on top of the Sports Craze, also our nature program, our outdoor fitness fun program, our tennis program, and then our youth golf right now is on hold, but we are working with Beaver Island to get that scheduled and working through that and some staff issues with that. Programs that we're not allowed to run right now, we probably won't throughout the summer, are field trips, just with the busing and going off site and stuff like that. We're not going to be able to do that. Our hockey program, that's in a high risk category right now. And just with everything else going on, we'll probably, right now that's canceled. We probably won't run that one. Our August Adventures, which is going to be a brand new program this year to extend the summer season where normally we end the second week in August. The big part of that was going to be 2 field trips a week. So we're not going to run the August Adventures, but we are looking at, if we can, expanding Sports Craze because we do have some staff lined up that said they can work between the second week in August and Labor Day weekend. A lot of high school students and, you know, maybe some local college students that have a Tuesday, Thursday, or Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule that can work a couple days. So, you know, we're working on that. You know, as Tom said, just these past 3 months, working with the town board, staying on top of the mandates, the legal advice from the town attorneys. And the bottom line is when we run these programs, it's going to be by the state mandates. Keep that safety going. Keep it as, you know, as fun as we can for the kids. And as I've been telling the staff, as long as we handle all that stuff on the back end of it and behind the scenes, you know, the program should seem as seamless as possible, you know, for the kids. There's going to be changes where they're going to have to wear masks and limited numbers, all that stuff. But yeah, you know, and like Tom said, we didn't jump the gun and cancel everything. We are the only recreation department in the Western New York area that will be running programs that aren't certified by the state health department. Right now, the only other departments running things off the top of my head, Amherst, Tonawanda, and they're running in Orchard Park, they're running their day camp programs, which are certified by the State Department of Health. So there's different regulations with buildings and stuff like that, a little bit more oversight. But nobody else is running general programs like we're running. So I think we'll be ahead a little bit there and keep it safe and just keep an eye on everything and run those. So we don't have a day camp program. So I think if we did have one of those, we'd probably be in the same boat where we're just running that because all of our staff would be allocated towards that. But because we don't, we're able to run some of these general programs. So. But that's it. And, you know, like Tom said, just working with the board, doing all that, it's been, you know, trying for everybody, but, you know, everybody's worked good with it and got it going. So.
Okay.
You've had it kind of a little tougher than others, Joe, because you're the fun guy. and everybody wants to get back to the fun, and they want the dates to get here. So, you know, just like, you know, our parade and events and everything else. So I think you've done a great job through it all. So on
Yeah,
behalf of
thanks.
my
You know,
behalf of my family, thank you.
yeah, yeah. There's a lot of different ways to look at it, a lot of different angles. You know, but one of them, which hopefully we hit, is, you know, getting back into some physical activity, that social emotional side, that the mental wellness, you know, and getting back to some things that, you know, quote unquote normalcy, you know, and doing that. So looking at that side of it, it's a you know, good thing.
That's the most frustrating thing about this whole thing is, like Joe said, there's one region, like there's the 5, the Mid-Hudson and all that, they might hit phase 4 on Friday. And there's been no additional guidance as to what that means. And it's just, it puts everybody in such a tough spot, because how do you plan? I mean, we've been talking about this since we had the discussions about the parade. And when did you bring that up, Joe? Like pretty much in March, right when this whole thing started?
Yeah.
And nobody knows. And even now, you've got people knocking on the door of being there, and my guess is perhaps they keep it close to the vest because they figure if you let the cat out of the bag too soon, people just pretend it's here and go and do their thing. But you know, and one other thing for anybody who's watching this, I think somebody asked earlier, none of the fields are open yet. The town board did last week. We opened the playgrounds, but the athletic fields, the basketball courts are still off limits. Tennis was opened and pickleball, but the roller hockey over here by my house is still chained closed because we are, as Joe said, we're following the guidance. We're doing things where the state gives us the green light to do it. So, and it stinks because even with the playground thing, we had to kind of slip it in because, you know, it's not like we can just do what we want when we want. If something changes, we've got to have a meeting and get the board together to approve some stuff. But that's why we had a special meeting today to accommodate Joe's request so we could get his people hired and make it easier for him to hit the ground running then. But we're doing all we can to get things back to some degree of normal.
Thank you. Jen?
Okay. The last 3 months, has been interesting like it has been for everybody else. I've pretty much had to flip my department completely around 360 different. With that being said, for example, we have the only service that we are providing right now is recreation on a virtual level that we've been able to do starting through Zoom right now, which is only hitting a certain part of our population, which is very, very daunting. And we're running our Meals on Wheels program. When COVID hit, I had to strip 60 senior volunteers off of the streets to protect their health, and I had to recruit new volunteers. With that being said, I had to find literally as many younger volunteers to help continue to deliver the Meals on Wheels program, of which I was able to find about 18 to 20 younger, healthy volunteers that were willing to deliver the Meals on Wheels program. On top of that, I had to create a whole new route for Meals on Wheels because I put as many people on Meals on Wheels that I could from the senior center who were not able to go out, not able to have a nutritious lunch through our home cooked lunch program at that time onto the Meals on Wheels program. So that nearly doubled the amount of people I had on the Meals on Wheels program during the COVID crisis. So,
If you ever seen a senior get a cold lunch, it's not a pretty sight.
It's not. So trying to make the volunteers happy, all my new volunteers happy, trying to remind my 60 volunteers that I still want them to volunteer when all of this passes, and then trying to keep all my Meals on Wheels Meals on Wheels recipients happy is very, very daunting because I have to coordinate this with Elderwood on a daily basis. So I probably had to change the program at least 30 times since all of this has started. So I'm eternally grateful for my new volunteers. And I've already had a few drop off because of the fact that their loved ones are returning back to work. Now they're babysitting, they're volunteering in other capacities. So that's continually changing. We're doing virtual recreation now. in trying that via Zoom. The tough part with that is that only about, oh gosh, about 30 to 50% of my seniors have the ability to use technology, computers, smartphones, etc. The other percentage of seniors don't have that capability or do not understand how to use that capability. So the other half of my day, I'm on the phones trying to touch base with 10 plus people a day to do that social contact with them, that welfare check with them, on top of the phone lines going. So while I was working from home, I had my work phone on 40 hours a week, plus I was doing at least 10 calls a day to touch base with them, voice on voice, to make sure everybody was okay, on top of all the work calls coming in. On top of it, when we finally got back to work, we did a mask distribution in our community, of which we passed out 3,500 masks. We still continue to do that through the Golden Age Center, of which we've been doing that, and people come up to the Golden Age Center, they honk their horns. We deliver masks safely through the passenger window. I've been social distancing with seniors and setting them up through Zoom on their phones and on their laptops and so forth in the parking lot, because they cannot enter our building. I do not have any mandates or any kind of mandates at all out at this time. When it comes to senior services, I've touched base with all of my contacts at Erie County Senior Services. Many of them are furloughed, or it's taken them weeks to get back to me for any kind of guidance and feedback with them. I do not know when congregate dining will ever reopen again. I don't know if my health inspector is going to have to come back in order to deem us ready to open. So I am looking into outdoor tents at this time, which the rental price is astronomical. I'm already flipped my facility, getting ready for social distancing. Basically my dining room, I've moved all the tables out into the maintenance building, put new tables in. What used to be 120 people is now 30 people max in the dining area. I can only accommodate 6 people on the stage for any kind of programming, which would include, oh my goodness, chorus or line dancing. In the pool room, only 4 people could be in there at a time to play pool. When it comes to the arts and crafts room, only 6 people could be in there at a time. And these are just basic regulations at this point in time, because we have no mandates out. I'm still waiting for all my social distancing items to come in that I've ordered. I'm still waiting for my plexiglass to be installed. I can only do so much because I'm waiting for all these individuals to come in and help me install all of this. On top of it, half of my staff is over at town hall working, the other half is working with me. So I'm just waiting for all the guidelines to come out as to know when I can safely reopen, which would be transportation, which would be grocery shopping for seniors, which would be my 34 recreational programs. Meals on Wheels will continue as normal, which will be our home cooked lunch program and so forth. So I'm just planning for all of those safe things and just going from there.
Wow.
And on top of it, I did apply for a grant and I was able to get $5,000 for our town to get social distancing items and so forth through a grant. And the club is going to donate it back to the town to help get the things that we need during this COVID crisis.
Yeah, that has been one crazy thing through all these mandates that have come out in the different phases. There really has been no guidance specific to senior centers. They've had the
Nothing
nursing
at all.
homes, the hospital, stuff like that, but there's been
And Jen,
nothing for the senior centers.
you just hope that they don't pull the same stuff they have with everything else, where one day it's nothing and the next it's, oh, hey, by the way, you can open now. So, but either way, Jen, I know you're doing everything so that you'll be one of the few that I'm sure will be prepared when that time comes. So,
Yes. Thank you.
as prepared as you can be.
I think I'm ready for anything at this point in time. I've got everything ready to go.
How you're still sane, I don't know, Jen.
I think my hair looks otherwise. It doesn't look sane right now. So
Yeah,
lots of gray coming through. But we've granted a lot of wishes for seniors to try to keep them well during this time. They're really starting to feel it, which is the worst part.
Yeah, that's hard.
it's taking a mental toll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jen.
Thanks for your work, Jen.
Yes, thank you very much.
I know, and Jen, this isn't just a job for you. I mean, you really are the turning point for some of these seniors that you may be the only one that they have to talk to or to help with special issues. And, you know, so it's hard, it's got to be incredibly difficult on you because you have a personal connection, I know, to every single one of those seniors in that center. So, I mean, hold up, girl. We're behind you. You need me, you know, call.
And maybe somebody that's listening to this will come and volunteer. We'll
Yeah.
put it there.
Yeah.
People understand that. Okay, well, Natalie's not here, Tom's not here, so Tom, you're the liaison to the Parks Department. Anything?
Like I said before, we got their full-time guys or their seasonal help in,
Uh-huh.
and they were able to basically jump on top of all of the fields and stuff like that to try and get everything ready for July 6th. So they're doing well there. You know, one thing that kind of got lost in the shuffle is I haven't heard from Little League in a while, other than the couple of emails I've received because I was going to coach, but they have their directives. I don't know what type of park improvements they're looking at or not looking at. Same with soccer and football.
The Parks was going to put, I think Little League wanted to put, I don't know if they finished putting the covers on the dugouts or not.
They wanted to, and I don't know where that lies now.
So I don't know, they're starting probably the middle of February or middle of July or something, I think.
They want to start practices July 6th and games the week of the 13th is my understanding.
Yeah, that's
Whatever happened to the picnic shelter issue?
That will get built. That's still out there.
But in the location we came up with last time, that's still a go?
Yep. Chris Dan, because that was right before COVID.
Yeah.
Chris Dan was going to go out and take a look at the site and just try and find the area there that would be best, in that general vicinity that would be best suited and draw up the plans, although they were essentially done from the last one.
Yeah.
But that's going forward. It'll be a week ago today that we got Tuesday that we got everybody back up and running. So things are slowly coming to, and
The other issue for the parks is the drainage issue. Now, I know that Tom was working and trying to figure out how we could get better drainage on the fields and keeping them a little drier and getting the water away from them. So I don't know. I mean, you gotta have somebody come in and take a look at that. You just can't
Well, I had talked to Chris Dan in engineering about that too, and they had, basically what they needed to do first, what he said is they need to go in and basically crown all the playing surfaces, because basically Veterans Park is flat, extremely flat. So no matter what drainage you put in between the fields, if it's flat, the water's just going to sit there. So he said step one would be to basically go in and redo the playing surfaces and get them elevated so that the water runs off of the playing surfaces, and then do drainage. But that would have to be, a multi-year kind of phased approach so that we're not eliminating all the sports at one time. So it was something that that was on the horizon to start happening this year, but my guess is COVID probably didn't help that very much. So,
well, there's a lot of things we can't do there until we resolve that issue. There's that one major pavilion that we want to put up there, and until we get that solved, I'm sure that I know Little League would love to have, batting cages, and other things there. Not just Little League, but it's just, and there's other things that I know Tom wants to do there, and there's just all over the park that needs to be addressed. But I think it probably needs to be a study, and I don't know exactly,
Yeah, and I guess one other, Tom Dvorak, myself, and Jen met with Pam and Bridget from the library on Thursday of last week, and they're going to be doing a story walk. Pam is writing all of the stories, and they'll be basically putting up signs along the bike path at Vets Park that will have QR codes on them where you scan them with your phone, and it'll pull up the story. Tommy was going to put up the signs, and then he said, you know what, we can throw picnic tables there too, so you can sit down with your family and read the story. So I think there's going to be a total of 4 signs, and they were going to do the front half of the park from the wall, like from the memorial out to like the football field and back, so that you could hit each sign. There would be 4 signs, each would have a front and a back, so you could hit all 4 signs. So that the timeline, they were hoping that would be up and running early July. So
Well, we certainly have a picnic now too. In case anybody didn't know, I know we haven't met, but the Fantasy Island, we still have all that stuff, right, Tom?
as far as I know,
Picnic tables, I think I saw them all at the Nike base.
It's all at the Nike base.
Pardon? Yeah, they're
It's
all,
all at the Nike base.
yeah. So they've Fantasy Island, I don't know who from Fantasy Island donated it, and I don't know what did you ever get a letter saying it's okay that you got that stuff? Just out of curiosity.
I want to say yes, but I don't recall seeing it. I can check with John. I think John did get it, but
Okay. But yeah, we got a bunch. I don't know if you guys saw the meetings or anything, but we got picnic tables from Fantasy Island. We got a couple signs, a couple other things. I don't even remember right off the top of my head what they were.
a bunch of garbage cans.
Yeah.
Real exciting stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. But there's hope for that place. So, we'll see. We'll see. I saw that they have a Facebook thing that it's been tentatively sold, and they're hoping to get it open back up again, which is really good for somebody that was, well, you and I, Ray, we've been here since before it opened. Maybe you haven't, but I have. But anyway, so I guess that's it. There's a roundtable section. Anybody have anything they want to
I
bring?
have a question. It came up earlier. You were talking about the connection from the Nike base to the West River Trail.
Yep.
That comes out next to Tompkins' house. And you said that we're close on that. What do you have to do to finish it? Do you need to get a contractor in, or what's going on?
Pete was, I think, was going to work with Dick from the highway department about whether or not they wanted to put a culvert in and a couple of other issues, but nothing major. He's got to get through. Sorry, one second. I got to plug my chart thing in before it dies.
Isn't there a creek there, Ray? I mean, isn't there a creek?
Well,
Right.
Joe knows way more than probably any of us do.
Yeah, I mean,
So there is a creek there. Going through there's enough that the way that the topography goes there, and it drops down and flattens out and then goes into the creek again.
Uh-huh.
There is enough room to put the trail through there without really having to touch the creek at all.
Okay.
Further in from the road, you may have to put some culvert work in. But the section, say, from the road back past the houses, so you're looking at maybe 30 to 50 yards somewhere in there. There's nothing that should have to be done in there. It could be left natural.
Yeah.
It'd actually be a really nice area where you're entering, from the West River into there, and it gives you a nice, nature setting. So as Tom and Pete saw, it's pretty thick back there. But there's other parts in the trail that, we may have to do some culvert work in there. And we're going to look at some of the trail designers that the Marjorie Gologly Trail Nature Conservancy used, and some other ones with the grant money that we got for the Nike Base Outdoor Recreation, to look at some trail design and looking at that stuff in there. So,
Okay,
but
good.
yeah, that part where Tom and Pete are working are basically punching through there and taking down some of the overgrown stuff.
Yeah, it's like, I don't even know what type of plant it is, but it's like a low, I want to say like a, almost like a massive fern. And it's just, that's going to take just some muscle and elbow grease to get through. But I mean, Pete's got it too. He's right basically in the backyards of the houses. So he's got to get through that, and they've got to figure out what they're going to do up by the road, and the end is in sight.
Okay, good.
That's cool.
Thanks.
Okay, anybody else, anything?
I just wanted to know if anybody knew if we were still having problems at Scenic Woods with the ATVs, if that's gotten better or worse, or no change, or.
I have not.
I know the neighborhood was getting upset because the trails were getting torn up. We somewhat kind of talked on it last time, but.
They were, and I think that I haven't seen much about it lately, but I bet that that might part be because but Jen, I think one of the issues might be that the use of that trail increased so drastically because people are home because of COVID, and it makes it a lot harder to go do something stupid when there's more people around. But,
I kind of questioned bringing it up, but being that anyways, but yes, okay.
And we did talk about it at a town board meeting at some point about because you guys, the same things we had discussed here about what we could do as far as putting in like pylons or something to keep stuff out. But my understanding is a lot of it's dirt bikes, and then
They go around.
it's very, very difficult to keep
I just hate
somebody on one of those out. But.
torn up already.
Well, I thought when I'd spoken with somebody working there, and I guess they were putting some stuff in. They had to leave some stuff out because they still had to get back in there with some of their equipment. So it was a matter of when they got that finished, they could probably put up some a little bit better, at least deterrent from the four-wheelers. But like you said, the dirt bikes, they can go around it. That's not it. And I hope they respect it. But I see what goes on my house sometimes on the bike path, and I'm like, come on, guys, really?
Well, maybe I'll make it one of my walks this week.
Well, and that's what I was saying, Jen. I think people are, just because it's finally done and people are using it, that there's a lot of people. Every now and then you follow the social media sites, and every now and then somebody's posting about how great it is back there, and then people are going to check it out. So maybe the more well-known it gets and the more it gets used, the more it'll almost self-police itself. But we can only hope.
That's good. Okay, anything else? All right. Well, our next meeting, we normally don't meet in July. And now it's up to you. I mean, if you feel like we should get back together to discuss any of the Project Olive or any of the COVID stuff or anything that we have, because normally we don't meet in July because people would be on vacation. I'm not going anywhere. But I know about the rest of you, but if it's up to you, I'll send out a meeting. I can tentatively plan to have a meeting in July where we don't normally meet. But if you think we should get together to discuss any of the stuff that's on our agenda or that might come up, then I'd be more than willing to call a meeting for the end of July.
Let me, in light of, considering the Project Olive, Tom, what is the timetable and how time sensitive is getting something from Joe and discussing it and getting it up to the board?
There's no real firm timeline. I'm not going to say that meeting in July would be a bad idea, but it's up to you guys.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind having a meeting, but maybe what we could do is get something electronically from Joe and Jen and kind of look at it independently. And Judy, maybe you could organize some emails.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that would be sufficient.
Yeah, I think we can electronically, go through this stuff, and if you feel like we need to meet, I mean, if there's a consensus, we can do it. Otherwise, we'll meet again together in August, and then we'll decide if we want to meet in the conference room or if how we want to do it. So I can leave it at that if that's,
Leave the idea of a July meeting kind of open, but, maybe.
I'll just need, if you decide to meet in July, I'll just need like a week and a half, 2 weeks ahead of time because we don't normally meet that week, I'll have to post it separately.
why,
Yep.
what, okay.
Well, Tom, just for clarification, so the town now is making sure that all the advisory board meetings have been posted and listed, right? So when you say a week and a half, it's because we need to get it on the calendar and get it.
Yeah, get it
Yeah.
published on the website. I mean, normally what happens with the advisory boards is the town posts one calendar that covers everybody and just says, oh, we meet the third Thursday of the month, except for July and November or whatever it is. And that's what gets posted. So if we're gonna meet anytime other than that, just let us know so I can toss it on the website and people can see it. That's all.
And going forward, all meetings will be recorded now. So
That
even
is the
when
game
COVID's
plan.
over, yeah.
Okay. All right, well, if it needs to be posted, I can post it on the website if we decide 2 weeks. We need 2 weeks?
No, that's not a firm date, especially for an advisory board like this, but.
Yeah, because we're not even subject to the open meeting laws.
Right.
So we don't even have to post it. But if it had, I would put it on the calendar. If we're gonna do it,
No, and that's what we want to do is we just want everything to be open because you know what, we know I want the public to be able to see it and Project Olive those guys are keeping close tabs on what we do. And
Plus, for our own calendars, I
Yeah.
think we should make a decision in a couple of weeks, so.
yeah, I think if we get it in like 10 days ahead of, after the last meeting, the last board meeting in July would be the 20th. So maybe before that we would know. After the 6th, we'll probably know where we stand, or by the 13th or so. So, okay.
Okay.
All right. I'll leave it at that. And we'll take care of that. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you all so much.
Good seeing everybody.
all right, thanks
All
everybody.
right, take care.
Good evening.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Take care.